I'm Susan Conlon, Festival Director, and we're very happy to be here directly after the screening of the world premiere screening of the film Observatory. And I'd like to thank my co-festival director, Kim Dorman. She's going to be taking some of the questions from the chat. So please feel free to put your questions in there. We're going to get to them in a few minutes. In the meantime, let's get started. We have with us professor of astrophysical sciences at Princeton University, Gaspar Bakos, who you just met in the film, and he has his colleague here with him in the green shirt. He'll introduce himself in a moment. And we also have the filmmaker Jared Flesher, who is no stranger to the Princeton Environmental Film Festival, that's for sure. So hi, you guys, welcome. Thank you for coming here. And let's get this thing started, because I know we have a bunch of questions already brewing in the chat, so we want to get to them, and we want to hear everything about the film, everything about every wild animal in Princeton. So why don't we get started? We want to know the backstory of this film. So Jared and Gaspar, how did the two of you meet, and how did this film evolve?
So Gaspar gets pretty much all the credit. He started this project of filming wildlife in Princeton with the camera, all on his own. And he sent these video files and some photos to one of my colleagues in the Princeton University Office of Sustainability, kind of saying, check this out. I think Gaspar was interested in not just wildlife around Princeton, but some of the new building and construction that was going to happen on campus, plans for what was going to happen with lighting. It was just really apparent that Gaspar cared about campus and the wildlife that lives there. So my colleague, who knows that I create videos and do storytelling for the university, said, oh, check out this footage. Maybe there is a story here. And, I think maybe I was busy that day, but the next day I kind of opened this folder not knowing what to expect. And there were all these incredible wildlife videos that I can't imagine how much time and effort went into that, because I film wildlife professionally and, not always using camera traps, but it takes a really lot of effort to get the good stuff. And there's like all this good stuff there. So I kind of had the green light from the office to go and meet Gaspar and try to make a video about it. And most of the things I do for Princeton, like a 2 to 3 minute little video that goes up on the web. And I thought maybe that would be what this was, but I met with Gaspar, and this was like during the height of the pandemic, and people were still, pretty concerned. I was all masked up. That was the university policy, and we met outside and kept our distance. But in addition to all this great footage, what I soon realized was that Gaspar had like a good story behind every picture, or like how this came about. And I went back to, well, not back to the office, but back home, because I was working virtually, and I put together an email to the people I work with often. And I said, I don't think this is a 2 to 3 minute video. I think this is like a short film. And the difference between a long video and a short film, it's kind of subtle, but it's kind of the way you frame it, as a story with a beginning, a middle, and end. And they said, sure, let's try it. So that was how this came about.
All I can add is the real credit goes to the boys. Here's one of them, Chongor. He's 9, and the other two are Boti and Aaron. They're watching a movie downstairs, which is good for everyone. And they're really curious about nature. I would say these days it's mostly Chongor who is my buddy, and Boti, and they're the ones who always watch everything outside the window and on the meadow, in the garden, wherever. And it started with that. I think that let's buy a camera and try to catch the chipmunks on a video and then do other things. So, and over the months they helped a lot in all with ideas. Let's put the bait here, let's put the camera there, or they helped in swapping cards, batteries. And every night we would review the videos together. That was the best part, sitting down next to the screen and watching it one by one. It's so exciting. You don't know what you will see.
Very nice. So, can you just talk a little bit about, I mean, it felt like you were discovering, and by watching the film, we're discovering along with you, this secret world. And so I'm just curious, how did this influence your decisions on, how to assemble the film, how to edit the film and convey the story? Did you feel like that was the undercurrent of the narrative?
So as the person who put it together in editing, I have to kind of once again say Gaspar gets the credit. I put together a lot of films, and a lot of the hard part is, figuring out where all the pieces go. But I swear to you, when I met Gaspar in the woods, he told the story in pretty much the order that it's in the film. It's like he had almost edited it in his head, and I think he's just a good storyteller. So he was able to kind of lay it out in a narrative sequence that, with a little editing magic, I was able to just lay it out. I think the hard part for me was figuring out how to take these images, which I don't know if you know what trail camera footage looks like, but it looks a little bit junky, and kind of adding the right shadows and movements. And I was inspired by this video I saw online, like of an old lantern show, I guess like the original slideshows where, people would shine lights on a wall and you could watch things that way. And I don't know if I quite achieved that effect, but I was going for something that looked a little bit like one of an old slideshow you would see when someone came home from vacation and said, "Look at this turtle."
I think you got it, Jared. I think it worked.
Thank you.
And there is a story behind all of these things. I didn't have to make up anything. It's very easy. It's just there. So you come up with an idea, and then you watch the video. I don't know, you hang a chicken thigh or a drumstick from a rope, and you see what happens. And you realize that the fox would not accept it. It does not look natural anymore. It's there. It's the same thing as you would put on the ground, and yet it can hang on that rope at the height of its nose for days, and it would not eat it.
Amazing. We have a lot of questions about what kind of cameras did you use?
I used the cheapest one that I found on Amazon. I think it was either 39 or 49, I forgot. And it worked remarkably well. And in the end, I took it to Hungary. I forgot the brand. It didn't even have a brand, I think. I'm afraid. So if you search for,
Brandless.
but then there are some other ones. I thanks to the same program, Office of Sustainability, we are now ramping up this, and we are buying more than 10 cameras, and now I'm testing a number of them. So we're using Browning ones. We tried some other cameras that transmit the images right away to your cell phone. It's very exciting. You receive 100 emails per day while you're somewhere else about wildlife. And there's a couple of other ones. It really doesn't matter too much. They're essentially all the same.
We have a question for your son from Caroline Quinones. She asks, do you have a favorite animal to watch or favorite animals?
Oh yeah, I definitely have one. It's the otter.
Ah,
It just runs up there like a little sneaky with its legs. It runs so cute, and then it just smells the sausage on the video and says no to it, and then it shakes its head and goes away.
that's so fun.
Good question.
Somebody would like to know a slightly different question. Is there an observatory in New Jersey for public use?
There is one on the top of Peyton Hall. Unfortunately, due to the pandemic, it has been closed for about a year now, but once everything opens up, which I hope is soon, it will be open again. So Peyton Hall, Department of Astrophysical Sciences, Ivy Lane, Princeton, there's one. There's a show every month, once.
Ah, wonderful. And we have lots of people who are expressing a lot of love for the film. We have two questions that sort of work together but are different. One is, how do you imagine the wildlife behavior might change once people become more active in terms of post-COVID. And then somebody asks, have you noticed a decrease in wildlife since construction started on Faculty Road behind the patch of forest?
So to the first question, I think I started monitoring wildlife before the pandemic started, and I think I saw something that was an increase in the density and variety of wildlife. But the truth is, I'm not a biologist and I'm not an expert in this at all. I'm an astronomer. I just saw more and more wildlife, perhaps because I got more experience in how to place the cameras and what to look for. But that was my general impression. And also based on what I saw, like the fisher cat on this island on Lake Carnegie, those are rare. Also the otters in Lake Carnegie next to the canal, that's again something reported to be very rare. So I think there was something, and it's probably decreasing now. Some cameras are out and we see beavers, but we see less activity. We haven't seen a mink or really like a fisher cat for a while.
There were certainly stories in the national press, all over the country and in the world of wildlife returning and rehabiting places during the pandemic that humans had stepped away from. So I don't doubt that it makes a difference. I think it's probably just hard to quantify exactly what difference it makes.
Yeah, and then I think it's probably logical because there aren't any bridges, for example, across any of the major highways or routes here in New Jersey that I see for wildlife. There are countries where there are bridges specifically built for wildlife to be able to cross. So imagine crossing Garden State Parkway or even Route 1 if you're a mink. It's just pretty hopeless unless you time it well at 3 a.m., but it's very hard. And with much less traffic, it was easier for them to migrate. There was another question about Faculty Road and construction. I don't have any cameras around there to be able to comment on that. We started this program a bit late and I'm still testing cameras to set up, so I don't know.
And I could just add quickly that the New Jersey Division of Fish and Wildlife has a program called Connecting Habitat Across New Jersey, in which they identify that roads are a major, if not the major barrier to wildlife migration in New Jersey. A lot of bobcats get hit by cars, salamanders, frogs get run, or all sorts of things. So it only makes sense that if you decrease traffic, wildlife can move more.
Do you have a list of wished for animals that you haven't seen yet?
What do you think, Chongor? Wished for animals.
For animals?
Animals we have not seen yet, but we would like to see them on the camera. But anything that lives in New Jersey, you just can't see elephant.
But that would be so fun.
Don't say it.
I would like to catch a bear on
Oh yeah, maybe bear. Even though I've seen bear with my brother Boti already. So, but still, yeah, that's probably. I can't really think of any else we did because I think of the beaver first.
How about Jared?
I have one, and that is bobcats were once common all throughout New Jersey, and then by the 1960s or 70s, they were extirpated. They were reintroduced in Northwest New Jersey, and the population there has been pretty stable and growing for a long time. But I made a film about this. It was only a couple of years ago that the first verified bobcat sighting in central New Jersey in the Sourlands was caught actually on a trail camera. Like, this is a bobcat, no doubt. Like, they got it. So if they're back in, they're in Mercer County. Are they in Princeton? They could be. I think bobcats are still probably relatively rare in central Jersey, but they're starting to habitate. I don't know what the word is. They're coming back to central Jersey. So I would love to see Gaspar get a photo of one, because that means they're here in the Princeton area.
That's great. And I'll let Susan go, but we do have somebody that says there's also an Amateur Astronomers Association of Princeton. So you can get the information on the website. And somebody also asked, have you seen any coyotes? Because they've caught some on their cameras. Susan has. What about
We
you,
have-
I
Jared and
did, I
Gaspar?
saw one in my backyard a few years ago.
Good for you. We haven't seen any on our cameras. There were some sightings of maybe abnormally big foxes that run across the creek in dark, and they just look big, but I don't think they were a coyote. We're waiting for that moment.
So I have two things here I wanted to mention, and then I'd love to take some more questions from our audience. So in the program you're expanding with the your wildlife cameras, you're up to, is it that you're up to 18 now? And this is with the Office of Sustainability, Gaspar?
The number is not yet decided because it will depend on how many of these we can squeeze into the budget. The aim is to have about 18, yes, but it may be slightly less depending on what we get.
And I have here that this it's a program funded by the High Meadows Foundation Sustainability Fund and supported by Princeton University Office of Sustainability. Mini commercial there. And I just want to jump in and ask you to tell us more about your work in Chile and the installation of the multi-million-dollar camera system that will monitor the entire night sky. That's a little bit of a bigger camera.
Oh yeah, that's a completely different thing. Much of that is thanks to the Moore Foundation, the funding, and it is a 64 camera, 64 lens system, which can view the whole sky at any given time and can take 30-second exposures non-stop all night. So anything that happens on the sky would be recorded, and it will produce an enormous amount of data. Although most astronomical projects do that. It's under construction, and I hope that once the pandemic is over, it will be finished and will start running. It will be operated from here, from Princeton. Data will be flowing here to Princeton and will be analyzed and all made public to the world.
Oh, fantastic. And then one other question for Jared. I know this film, just to let everybody know, so this is the first time the film has been shared in public. We have people watching here in Princeton, all over the country. We have international viewers for the festival this year, which is really exciting. So Jared, tell people how they're going to be able to see the film and tell other people to watch it after well, I guess you can watch it here during the film festival through Sunday. So after Sunday, where do people go to see it, Jared?
So starting on Monday, I believe, the Princeton University Office of Sustainability is going to put the video up on YouTube. I don't know if I don't have the exact link at hand, but if you go to YouTube and you type in Princeton University Office of Sustainability and you find their channel, it will be up there. We'll try to publicize the precise link as well. So, we're hopeful that, some of the videos we make, we do get viewership from all over the world. So I hope people beyond just Princeton are interested in this story and Gaspar's story.
And what's next for you, Jared? What's your next project? Do you know?
Well, I have a long list of things I'm interested in. And actually, Gaspar has put a couple ideas into my mind. Something that's going on is, if you like to look at the night sky, there's a lot more satellites which are going up, things like Elon Musk's company, I think Starlink, is creating satellites which will bring the internet. But the more junk you put up there, the more potential you have for light pollution or satellites. And then there's light pollution here on Earth as well, which affects humans and wildlife in different ways. Ian Chaney, who has a different film in this festival, he made a terrific film called The City Dark a number of years ago that I really enjoyed. But maybe I could update it in some way or in my own way. But I made a film last year about off-road vehicle damage. People in the New Jersey Pine Barrens who drive their vehicles to the dirt roads down there and then drive them off the dirt roads into ponds and over ancient sand dunes and cause a lot of damage. And the film has gotten out there, and we showed it at an event in Princeton with you at the Environmental Film Festival. But because of the pandemic, I haven't been able to distribute it in quite the way I would hope to. So actually, one of my goals this spring and summer is to make sure more people see that film and talk about that issue. I feel really strongly about place-based storytelling, and I really love New Jersey, and the New Jersey Pine Barrens is an especially meaningful and unique habitat. And I think certainly the state needs to do more to protect that place. And people who don't know about the Pine Barrens need to go down there and see what's so great about it, and demand that it be protected. So kind of my number one goal in filmmaking isn't necessarily to start another feature right now. It's to get the story of my last film out, which is called Pine Mud. If you're interested in the trailer, if you're watching this at home, again, you could go to YouTube and actually, it's probably easy. Just go to pinemud.com or 100yearfilms.pinemud.com/ type it into YouTube, and you'll see the trailer, and you can kind of get an idea what it's about.
Yes, it's excellent. Thanks so much. And I wish that we were in front of this audience of people and not just online, because I feel like if I asked everyone how many people want to buy a night camera, trail cam now, the whole audience would raise their hands, because I feel like I'm getting a lot of this feedback. So somebody just said, I thank you for this film. I just wish it was longer.
Well, that's always nice feedback to get, leave them wanting more. I do have a piece of advice that I started this a couple of years ago, and then meeting Gaspar kind of reminded me to pick it up again, is we spend a lot of time not looking up at the stars, I think, in our modern society. It's easy to forget to do it. Every clear night, I try to look up at the stars and the sky. I read a little anthropology about, early hunter-gatherer human civilizations. I'm no expert, but according to the experts, one of the most frequent activities that early human societies did is sit around the fire at night, look up at the stars, and tell stories about them. It's a really important part of being human, paying attention to the natural world and also what's above you. So get a little pair of binoculars and look up, and then look down as well. And in my own life, trying to do that, it makes definitely life a little sweeter and more interesting.
I agree what you said, Jared. I don't know if you know that the oldest mythology for Homo sapiens is related to astronomy. So it's not Greek mythology or ancient Indian mythology or anything like that, but it's about the Pleiades, the seven sisters. Very strange that it's called the Seven Sisters in Aboriginal Australian and in Native American Indian and all around. And the story behind it is probably going back to about 100 to 200,000 years before mankind separated and spread. So we have a mythology on the sky and in a name that is older than all of the nations and countries.
I was just thinking we couldn't end better than what Jared said, and then Gaspar gave us this deep mythology. So.
Sorry, Jared.
No, thank you both. It was perfect. I can't think of a better way. I can't wait to get outside. I can't wait to investigate nature a little bit more. And thank you so much for sharing this film and sharing your all of the footage that you took, Gaspar, and sharing your storytelling. And Jared, for you to bringing it together to make it so magical and sharing it again with us, especially as a premiere.
We had a lot of fun.
Thank you for having us and for hosting the festival.
Yeah, thank you.
Goodbye, everyone.
Yeah,
Take
everyone.
care.
Bye.
Bye.